Word equations. We're going to take all the stuff that we just did in the last couple of worksheets and put it all together now. So now I have names of compounds, and I have to come up with those compound formulas. All right, so all the formulas for these different names, and then I'm going to balance that equation when I'm done. So remember on the sheet before here, we were naming these. So now we're going backward. So if we know the name of it, then we can tell what makes it up, and we can go ahead and make the formula name. So here we have sodium chloride. So I'm going to look up sodium, Na, which is in group 1, so it's Na with a +1 charge. And then I have chloride, which I know the "ide" ending changed from what it was, so it's actually chlorine. It's in group 17, so it has a -1 charge, Cl -1. This lead 2 tells me that it's lead with a charge of 2. Lead symbol is Pb, and that 2 in parentheses means it has a +2 charge. So I don't even have to look that up on my periodic table. It's in the name for me. And nitrate is on my polyatomic ion chart right here, nitrate NO3 with a -1 charge. So NO3 -1 charge. And same stuff again. Lead 2 was Pb +2, chloride was Cl -1, sodium is Na +1, it's the same as what I had over here, nitrate is NO3 -1. Now I'm going to look at these two ions and determine, do I need to cross them over or do they already add up to 0? These already add to 0, so I just write NaCl plus my lead 2 nitrate is +2 -1. Those don't add up to 0, so I bring my 1 down as my subscript for lead, Pb. I would put a 1 here, but I don't write 1s as subscripts. And 2 for NO3 is the subscript because I'm going to bring this charge down. Now I can't just write the 2 here, I have to put NO3 in parentheses because I'm saying I have 2 nitrates. I have 2 NO3s. Don't let yourself get confused. A lot of people tend to think that this 2 means I need to put a subscript of 2 for lead, but it's not how many are in the compound, it's the charge that lead has when it bonds in this particular compound. Okay? Now I put my arrow, because I'm just bringing it down from here. Lead 2 chloride +2 -1 does not add up to 0, so I'm going to cross these over. My 1 comes down for Pb, but I don't write 1s. And my 2 comes down as my subscript for chlorine, so PbCl2 plus sodium nitrate +1 -1. Oh good, this one already adds up to 0, so I don't have to put any extra subscripts. NO3 stays NO3. That doesn't mean this subscript goes away. Nitrate is still NO3. All right, but the +1 -1, since they already cancel out, I just write sodium and nitrate together. Now, you're thinking, golly, that's a lot of work. And guess what? We're not done. We still have to balance this. So don't forget, you need to look at how many of each element are on each side of our arrow. Now I'm going to do this the cheater's way. I've been doing this a long time. I'm going to show you how I would do this in my head without actually writing down how to balance it. If you're still working on balancing equations and you need to write this down, make sure you do it, all right? Because it's not a bad thing to write it down. You want to make sure you get it right. It's more important to get the right answer at the end than to try and do it my faster way. All right, so I have 1 Na on the left and 1 Na on the right, so my Nas are balanced. I have 1 Cl on the left, but 2 Cl's on the right, which means I should have 2 Cl's on this side as well. So I'm going to put a 2 in front of NaCl. Now that just messed up my Nas, right? I said Na was balanced. Now it's not because I have a 2 in front. So I'm going to need 2 Nas on the right-hand side as well. So I'm going to put a 2 here so that now I have 2 sodiums, Na, on the right-hand side of my equation. So 2 Nas, 2 Nas, 2 Cls, 2 Cls. 1 lead, Pb, and 1 lead, Pb on the right. So that's balanced. Then I look at my NO3s. I have 2 NO3s now on the left-hand side because it's in parentheses with this 2 here. And I look on this side, I see NO3 here. Well, look at that. I just put a 2 in front. So I have 2 NO3s on the right. So this is now balanced. So I put a 2 in front of NaCl and a 2 here. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and put ones in front of the others, though it is not necessary to do so. If you haven't taken your tax test yet and passed your exit level tax, please go ahead and put ones in there so you remember if they asked you for this on the tax test, the answer would be 2, 1, 1, 2 are the coefficients that balance that equation. You can do the same thing for the rest of these questions. Find the charges for all of these, make the compounds, and then balance it once you're done. Now, for some of these, like iron, it's just asking you for iron by itself. So it's not important to find the charge of iron here because it's just iron all alone. Chlorine, though, I want you guys to remember you have to be real careful about diatomic elements. Your diatomics are hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. So it's hydrogen and then jump over to 7, which is nitrogen, and make a 7, okay? 1, jump to 7, make a 7. Those are your diatomics, which means those will never be found on their own. All right, they'll either be in a compound with something else, or if they're by themselves, they'll be bonded with another atom of that same element. So for example, you never find nitrogen as just N. You find it in a compound with something else, or you find it, if it's by itself, as N2. Same thing here. You've seen H2O is water, right? And that has 1 oxygen in it, and that's fine because oxygen there is bonded with those hydrogens. But if you are breathing in oxygen, you're not breathing in atoms of O. You're breathing in molecules of O2. Oxygen is called a diatomic, di meaning 2. So since we have chlorine here by itself, and chlorine is a diatomic, we're going to put Cl2 here, not just Cl, okay? So iron is not a diatomic, so it can be by itself as Fe, but chlorine will need to have a 2 after it as Cl2, and then you go through and balance it, okay? So anytime you see one of these, hint, hint, that needs to be a diatomic, when it's written out like this, make sure you put your 2 after it. When you get down to number 5, it looks like it gets harder. It doesn't really, right? It just says when this reacts with this, so this plus this, this and this are produced. So yields, right, a little arrow, this and this. So it's no different, it's just as a sentence instead of written out as an equation. All right? So again, when you write these out, a few things to look for. Make sure you've double checked all of your charges, crossed them over if need be, put parentheses around your polyatomics only if you need to put a subscript there, and if you have a diatomic element, make sure you put a 2 after it when you write it in the equation. Then when you're done with all of those, you still do have to balance them. I do understand that these do get kind of complicated, but your test is over this material, so you need to know how to do it. So if you do still have questions about it and you're still confused after you've tried a few, please come and ask and you can get some help on figuring out how to do all of the rest of these.